Amazing. We're going to go ahead and get started. For those of you I haven't met, my name is Cami Welch. I'm the president and CEO here at the Arvada Chamber, and I'm so thrilled you joined us today for What is Quantum? Does anybody here feel like they could explain to me what quantum is, other than our panelists? Oh, you could? Okay, come on up. I'm just kidding. We won't do that to you. But we are really excited about this discussion today. Obviously, many of us have been hearing about quantum in the media, quantum in our different networks that we run in. And so we're really happy today to be learning more about what is this technology, what does it mean for our community, and of course, with the announcement of the Quantum Tech Hub, we're all eager to understand what the economic impact might be in our region. So we hope today, I love this word, we're going to demystify quantum. So we hope that today's discussion does just that for you. As we get started, as we always do, I like to thank and recognize our elected officials and dignitaries who have joined us today. So we are going to start with our Arvada City Council members. I saw Randy Mormon and Sharon Davis. If you could please give them a big round of applause for being here today. We can bring a little more energy than this morning, you guys. There we go. Thank you. Thank you. I also want to recognize that interim city manager Linda Haley is here. We also have Jefferson County Commissioner Rachel Zenzinger. I told her I might have to hyphenate for a while, call her Senator/Commissioner, because I've called her Senator for so long. I also want to thank and recognize, she's officially retired, but it felt like a miss not to recognize and thank former Commissioner Tracy Kraft-Tharp for joining us this morning. Additionally, we have Alma Carrillo from Brittany Pedersen's office with us this morning. Thank you, Alma. We have Bob Leverage from the Arvada Fire Protection Board. And Vicki Pine from the Apex Park and Recreation Board of Directors. Did I miss anyone? Awesome. We also would like to take a moment to thank all of our sponsors who make events like this possible. Of course, our annual sponsors, many of you are here today. We can't do what we do without you, as well as our event sponsors. For those of you that are enjoying coffee this morning, that is from Red Silo, and they are a partner on these events and have amazing coffee. And then, spoiler alert, our speakers are going to get cookies from La Patisserie Française, which you will not be disappointed about. So big thank you. Let's give them a round of applause. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to welcome our keynote presenter today. Ann Jewell is a passionate leader who fosters partnerships to accelerate commercial technologies in deep tech industries. She is the Chief Commercial Officer at Elevate Quantum, Colorado's Quantum Tech Hub. Prior to joining Elevate Quantum, Angel was Vice President at Inflection, where she launched the world's first commercial quantum matter service. Angel spent over a decade at Thor Labs, the world's leader in optics and photonics products. While at Thor Labs, Angel played a significant role in developing corporate strategies and leading acquisitions, contributing to over a 10 times growth in the company during her tenure. Angel received a PhD in biomedical engineering from Duke University and volunteers her time mentoring and working with industry organizations. She is a proud mother of 3 kids and a dog and will never turn down an offer for tacos and coffee. Please join me in welcoming Angel to the stage.
Good morning. All right, glad I didn't have to say it again. So thank you, Cami, for organizing this event, giving us the opportunity to talk about quantum, and even more so, what's going on in your backyard in Arvada when it comes to the Colorado Tech Hub. So I'm Anju Loiacono, Chief Commercial Officer at Elevate, and it's really exciting to talk about what is going on today and in the future, and how everyone here in this community can be a part of this change. So, raise of hands, who has watched Ant-Man Quantinuum? Okay, keep your hands up if everything that you know about quantum is from Ant-Man Quantinuum. That's all right, yeah, because, you know, until 4 years ago, that's pretty much all that I knew. And I will say that the one thing that they did get right is that quantum happens at the very, very small scale. And so what we are learning is we have all grown up in the world of classical mechanics. Classical mechanics is everything that you learned in your high school physics class, but you forgot, right? Gravity. You throw something up, it falls down. You take a ball, you throw it against a wall, it bounces back. That's classical mechanics. But when you get to the really, really small scale, like the atomic scale, all of those rules, they're just thrown out the window, and now we're in the realm of quantum mechanics. So some of the terms or some of the laws that happen in quantum mechanics are terms that you may have heard of. Superposition, entanglement. I'm not a physics professor, so I'm not going to go through all of the equations or anything to try to explain what it is in detail, but I'll try to explain it at a high level, because these are fundamental laws in which most all quantum technologies are based off of. So entanglement means that when you have two particles, they have the same properties. So imagine that if you had two tennis balls and you spin them, over time, the spins will change on those tennis balls. But with entanglement, if those tennis balls were entangled, they would continue to spin at the same rate in the same directions unless you touched them. So why is that? So what's the big deal about that? Well, entanglement can be used is that if you have information on those tennis balls, no matter how far apart that they are, it will maintain that information. And if that information is lost, you will know if you're at the other tennis ball. And these are key elements that are used in communication in quantum computing. The other space or the other principle is what's called superposition. So superposition means is that a particle is in all states. And what do we mean by states? A light switch or a transistor, it's either in an on or off state. It can't be in both. But with superposition, it can be in both and everything in between. So if you spin a coin, while it is spinning, it's both heads and tails. It's not until you stop it, is it one or the other. And that's essentially what superposition means. That principle is what's used in technologies like quantum computing. So it's with this power of things that happen at a very, very small scale that we're taking advantage of now in developing quantum technologies. It's not that these phenomena are suddenly just happening. They've always existed in our life. They've always existed in the world. So why now? Why today? Well, one thing is it wasn't now or today. Actually, I think I heard is that this is the 100-year anniversary for the chamber, if that's correct, right? Really exciting is that 2025 is also the 100-year birthday of modern quantum mechanics. And so the United Nations designated this year as the year of quantum. So these ideas have existed for a long time. But what's happened more recently is the technology has caught up for us to actually observe it. Everything was theoretical. Einstein was theoretical. It wasn't until we have now the capabilities to see it ourselves, to measure it ourselves. One thing, if I say quantum computers, what's the picture that comes into your mind? Anyone? What do you see? Do you ever see those beautiful golden chandeliers? Have you ever seen, if you look up, if you just do a Google search for quantum computers, guarantee you're going to see the chandelier, it's all gold with all these wires, right? That's actually not the computer. What that is it's called a dilution refrigeration system. It is a super, super cold refrigerator that takes the quantum chip and cools it down to near absolute zero. What cooling does is it takes away the noise. And so if you're in a room and you're trying to have a conversation with one person, but there's everyone else around you, there's a lot of noise. Imagine if you froze them all so that you only had your one conversation, everyone else is frozen. You can hear your conversation. So that's now we have technology that we can freeze the environment so we can pinpoint and actually measure these quantum phenomena. And that's what's been happening in the last decades, is development of those technologies that allow us now to really see what's happening at the atomic level. So quantum is going to change the world in the next 100 years, just as integrated circuits did in the last 100 years. An integrated circuit is in everything you see now, everything from your phone to your refrigerator to your washing machine, all of your kids' toys, it's everywhere. And what we believe is that that same fundamental, magnificent change that integrated circuits made in our life, quantum can do in the future. What's interesting is the question of, well, how much? What is this impact? In 1980, a report came out and it said that by the year 2000, there'll be less than 1 million mobile phones out in the field. In reality, in the year 2000, there were over 100 million mobile phones. So that estimate by some of the top researchers, market researchers, were off by thousands. So today, when you ask experts, is what is the market for quantum? They'll estimate it's in the trillions. But the thing is that just like with mobile phones, those estimates are based off what we know today, what the capabilities are today, and how it will mostly replace or improve what we do today. But what we don't know and we can't estimate are all the new things that we'll be able to do. Sorry. It's just imagine is that at one point, right, in history, in our lives, we never imagined is that we would have a phone in our pocket that had music, had communication, had the whole world of information, a whole Encyclopedia Britannica in your pocket, right? Same thing is imagine where we are now and where we'll be in 100 years and how quantum had enabled these new things for us. And that's the power of quantum. And it's really exciting is that it's happening here. It's happening here in our state. It's happening here in Jefferson County. That's right. So we say quantum technologies, but what is it? And you can really boil it down to 3 technologies: quantum sensing, quantum computing, and quantum networking. Most of everything can kind of bucket into those fields. So quantum sensing is actually, it exists. We're using quantum sensing. And that's in the form of an atomic clock. An atomic clock is a quantum-based clock. Those clocks are what's used to tell us what time's on our phone, what time's on our watch, without us having to wind our watch, unless you're old school and you like the nice Rolex. Does anyone know where the atomic clock is? Boulder, right? At NIST, here in Colorado. In Boulder is one of the atomic clocks that sends the timing signal up to the satellites and where we all get our time. This is a fantastic state. This is a fantastic area that a lot of quantum technology, a lot of quantum research has come out of this region. So it's only natural that we are going to have the quantum tech hub here in this region. Quantum sensing is also used for other measurements, such as navigation. We talk about that we want to go to Mars. We want to go and visit other planets. We're not going to have GPS there, so how are we going to know where we are? These are where quantum sensors can be used because they self-calibrate. They don't need a reference. And so you can maintain your direction, your distance, using sensors. But here on Earth also, a submarine can know where they are without having to come up and get a signal. In conflict zones, jamming GPS is a very common thing. With a sensor, you can know where your military vehicles are without having to worry about your signals being hacked. But there's also sensors in terms of magnetometry, measuring magnetic fields, gravitometry, measuring gravity. These things sound kind of weird, like why do we want to measure gravity? Did you know that gravity in the Earth changes based off of what's underneath the crust? If you have water underneath, it has a different amount of gravity. If the Earth moves underneath, gravity changes. So we can measure that now to such a sensitivity using quantum. We can potentially, not today, but we will be able to, detect an earthquake happening before it actually happens by measuring the changes in gravity. So quantum sensors can change everybody's lives, not just astronauts, not just submarine engineers, but it's going to have an impact on all of us. Networking and computing. I think quantum computers is what we hear about the most in the news. And why is that? It's because computers, just as they have today, quantum computers are going to have a major impact on our lives. And what is special about a quantum computer versus a classical computer? Classical computers are based off of that classical mechanics. It's an on or off. So when you do computation with a classical computer, it has to be A plus B plus C plus D. It's all linear, sequential. Now, with a quantum computer, you're taking advantage of superpositioning. Now you don't just have on or off, you have everything in between. So you can now process information in parallel. Our world happens in parallel. Someone sneezes over here, or someone, stands up over here. We don't have to simulate those one at a time. We can simulate them at the same time. What's the impact on our world when multiple things are happening at the same time? That's the power of quantum computing. And so it's going to allow us to be able to develop drugs faster. If you tried to do the same thing with a regular computer, it would take lifetimes. But with the quantum computer, now that you can do things in parallel, there's simulations that we can do that we could never do before. Climate change, drug discovery, logistics, is like, for example, Amazon sends out so many trucks. They have to know what's the most optimal routes for them to take. And there's an accident. With quantum computers, they can immediately start rerouting all of their trucks in parallel and figuring out what's the most efficient ways to get our packages to our door. So that's the power of quantum computing. And networking is we have all of this quantum information, just like we have an internet. How do we distribute that information? And that's what quantum networking is. It's a method of how to preserve the information we've now gotten from these quantum sensors and distributing them out into different spaces, but also protecting it. So we hear about national security and why quantum cryptography and quantum security and decryption is so important. As quantum computing advances our computing power, well, so does the ability to decrypt passwords, to decode information. So quantum cryptography is not only how do we protect our information by creating it more complex, but let's go back to entanglement. Is if we have information here and it is tied to our tennis ball over here, if the information here gets hacked, that tennis ball will fall flat. So we know is that when quantum information has been sent off, we'll know if it gets hacked. And that's what quantum cryptography helps us do. So these are some of, I hope, that kind of gives you a little more details when we talk about quantum technologies. What does that really mean? And what kind of technologies is that? One way to really, once again, emphasize the fundamental change that quantum is going to do for us. If we consider transistors are like a wood-burning fire. It's a traditional way that we create heat, and then that burns material, and now we have heat. The quantum analog will be at the atomic level, and so it's nuclear. Nuclear in the sense is that it's a whole different process of creating heat. Now you're using atoms. But it's also the magnitude of heat that is being generated with the same amount of energy. And that's what quantum can do compared to what we are today. So I'd love to be able to spend more time on quantum, happy to say more, but I do want to take some time to really discuss why are we here? Why are we in Jefferson County? And what is the Colorado Tech Hub? Elevate Quantum was formed and awarded the Colorado Quantum Tech Hub designation from the EDA. And a little bit of background of how we got here. So the Biden administration recognized coming out of the pandemic that the U.S. has put themselves in a very difficult position in that we've outsourced a lot of critical technologies. If you tried to buy a car during the pandemic, good luck. And why was that? Chips. There was a lack of appreciation of how widespread dependent we were on semiconductor chips and how it all was outside of the U.S. And so the administration created a CHIPS Act, allocated more money than I can even imagine, towards wanting to bring in technologies and manufacturing into the U.S. that we deemed is important for national security and for our economy. And so one of the allocations of that CHIPS Act money was to develop regional areas that would be the center of certain technologies and capabilities. And they didn't want to go into what is considered traditional Silicon Valley or Boston. They wanted to build up the economies in regions that are usually not really thought about. And so, and the areas that and they were called the tech hubs. So 400 applications to be a tech hub were submitted. Out of those 400, around 30 were given the official designation of you are a tech hub. We will recognize you as a tech hub. We were one of those here in Colorado. Two of them, there were two tech hubs related to quantum that were named, ourselves and in Chicago. Then, great, we've got a name. It's just a name. But that name gave us the ability to apply for money. So we applied for the phase 2, 12 programs, 12 tech hubs were awarded money to actually carry out their vision. The Colorado Quantum Tech Hub was the one and only quantum-based hub that were funded. Yeah, yay, right? Because why? It's not that we outspent. Chicago had a lot more money, we'll just say that. It's our community. You know, it wasn't just Elevate that did it. It was our entire community. It's our history. I talked about the atomic clock in Boulder, right? We have roots here. We have 4 Nobel Prizes since 2000 based off of quantum here in Colorado. This entire corridor from Boulder down to Golden, so much. We have the largest concentration of quantum companies in the entire United States. We have more jobs by tenfold here in the United States, not academic, but actual industry jobs. It would make sense for us to be named the Quantum Tech Hub, and that's what happened. So in September of 2024, after we got this award, we had our groundbreaking. And our groundbreaking is on our new campus that is called the Quantum Commons in Arvada. Oh, sorry. Okay. Yeah. So going back to why did we get awarded? Not just because of our community, but what's our mission? Our mission is to accelerate the commercialization of quantum technologies. And the reason why this is important, we can go to the next slide. The reason why this is important is the term that's called the Valley of Death. And I'm not sure, hand raise if anyone's heard of this. Okay, there's a few people. Especially when you're developing high-tech technologies and for commercial for the market, there is a process here. Usually it starts on an academic setting and research. Then you spin out that company and that technology, you develop it for a market, and if you're lucky, you're successful, and you've crossed the Valley of Death. The Valley of Death is essentially a lot of these startups, a lot of these technologies, they die. They don't succeed in the market. They don't make it. Why don't they make it? It's not because it was a bad idea. It's not because it was a bad technology. It's because it is expensive. It is difficult. And a lot of these companies can't have the resources or the access to the tools that they need to be able to get their technologies across that valley of death. And that's what Elevate's mission is, to provide resources, equipment, space, and community for them to develop their product and make it succeed. If we're going to be successful and we're going to build a trillion-dollar plus industry, we need workforce. And so we're also dedicated to the workforce. It's not PhD level workforce that we need. We're going to need manufacturers, technicians, operators, as we have to build that workforce. And here in Colorado, with our fine universities and community college and schools that are dedicated to optics and quantum, we are going to build that workforce that's going to feed the entire quantum industry here in the United States. So just a little bit in terms of the Arvada Commons. This is a 70-acre piece of land that it will be our campus. It's located just south of the Candelas neighborhood along Highway 72. If you ever driven there, it's across the street from the Ziggy's Coffee. And if you've ever ridden along there, you've probably seen some massive industrial old school towers there. That's going to be the Stanford Research Park of quantum. Silicon Valley was formed from the Stanford Research Park in California. Quantum Valley is going to be formed from the Arvada Commons. On this campus, we're building a fabrication facility for photonic integrated chips. These chips are vital for quantum technologies, but they're expensive. The equipment to make them are expensive, not the chips. Right now, there is no source in the United States for these chips. So all of the companies have to go outside of the US to get these. So we're going to bring it home. We're building labs for communities to come, startup companies and established companies can come and test their equipment, help develop their products. And we're also providing the land for companies to come and build their own facilities so that we can make it a complete campus of companies of all stages. So the last thing that I want to mention is that it's not just Elevate, it is Colorado. We are dedicated as a state, as a region, to advance quantum from the start of research to deployment and establishments of companies. And so there is a whole spectrum of facilities and services that we need to stand up. This is a collaboration between the universities, between the industry, and with the state. The OEDIT was a huge part in making this happen. And so I did want to point out is that with universities like Colorado State, the School of Mines, who's purchased the land that we are going to be on in Arvada, University of Colorado Boulder, who's standing up a national quantum nanofab to help with the research of those PIC technologies, a quantum incubator that's going to help with the research spinning out of the universities and becoming companies, and with Elevate Quantum that will provide a home for these companies to develop their technologies. So this is a community effort, extremely exciting, and I hope that you'll be able to walk away here not only with a little bit of understanding why Ant-Man Quantinuum is not exactly right, but also why you all should be very proud of being here in Jefferson County and being in Colorado and being able to see the future of quantum happening here. So I want to thank you with this, and with that, I'd like to invite our panelists to come up because I know that we have a lot of questions for them and understanding how this is going to impact Jefferson County. So I'm going to invite Srishti come up to the stage. I think we've got Scott, who will be on the drums. Srishti will be on the keyboards, and Jessie will come up and she's going to sing. Just kidding. All right. So, thank you. As they come up, I'll just quickly, so Srishti Agarwal is the co-founder and CEO of Mesa Quantum. Scott Sternberg is the executive director of Qubit program. That's it at CU Boulder, and also was pivotal in standing up the quantum incubator in Boulder. And Jesse Olson is my colleague and CFO and COO at Elevate Quantum. So now, okay. So everyone has... If each of you can just take a minute to maybe give a little bit more information of, who you are, what you do, and perhaps just a brief background of how you got here, because I think it's really interesting for people to understand that I'm a biomedical engineer, that we all came from different backgrounds, but we're all here for quantum. So go ahead, Jesse.
All right, I'll go ahead and I'll go ahead and start. Jessie Olson, Elevate Quantum. As Anji mentioned, I've got the great pleasure of working with her at Elevate Quantum. So beyond operations and finance, part of my role has also been helping to start to lay out the strategy for workforce development. My background coming in, economic and workforce development, came from consulting. My specialty was working with state and local governments in the private sector to start to execute on technology, advanced technology strategies. In that role, with all the federal funding that's come down the pipe, had the opportunity to work with a number of different tech hubs, start to look at how you really start to drive success. In that process, came and learned about Elevate Quantum, and the mission and the partners and the community here is truly unparalleled. So left my job in DC, came out here to Colorado, and I'm every day impressed by the amazing partners we have.
I'm Shrishti Agrawal. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Mesa Quantum Systems. I moved here to do my PhD in quantum, working at JILA and NIST. And just to give some context, I think NIST developed most of the atomic clock technology in the world. We all used atomic clocks to get here because GPS is basically atomic clocks on a satellite. And they beam out time signals. We use those signals for navigation, but we also use them for all sorts of synchronization. So our power grids work because of that. Our communication systems work because of that. And so at Mesa Quantum, we're focused on, but we've seen how incredible that technology is, but with the change in geopolitics, as Anjul was talking about, it's not resilient. So at Mesa Quantum, we focus on developing chip-scale clocks that can be integrated into our hardware so we wouldn't be solely reliant on an external source of signal. And I just mentioned that one more thing which really got me excited in this journey was just seeing the incredible research and development happening in this ecosystem. We are by far, I think, even in atomic clock technology, the lab I worked in, right under that, we had an atomic clock that was so precise. You move the lab table by a millimeter and it ticks differently because it's affected by gravity. I just end with, it's an incredible ecosystem. The research happening here is just at par or even better than anywhere else in the world, I'd say. And that's what got me into this journey.
Well, good morning, everyone. I think, Shrishti, you're actually holding an atomic clock in that picture, just to give some context of what we're talking about, right? I mean, atomic clocks, when you go through a tour at NIST, you see they take up a huge hallway and a huge laboratory, and some of them have been now archived in as museum things, but that's what we're talking about right now. That's the future. So congratulations on your company. It's just such a pleasure to be here. And it's really an exciting time. My name is Scott Sternberg. I serve as the executive director for what we call the Qubit Quantum Initiative at CU Boulder. Your next question is, well, what the heck is that? Over our, I would say, half-century plus experience in quantum, the scale, the magnitude, the breadth of quantum research, quantum science, the spin-outs that we've had out of the university, our interactions with our partnering universities, with our Office of Economic Development and International Trade, really goes back 60 years. And so our portfolio and our momentum, our legacy, as evidenced, yes, by 4 Nobel Prizes, but I would say more so by the quantum companies that have spin out and now are thought leaders nationally and internationally in this ecosystem, in many ways have spawned, from the Nobel Prize winning science that's come out of CU Boulder. And so, we are just, we feel that we're critical for the ecosystem, but more so, we're not harping on our past. We have a very, very aggressive strategy to maintain our leadership position in the world around quantum because, first of all, it's so relevant, and we have been at the core of it, arguably since its beginning of commercialization and breakthrough science. So we're thrilled to be a part of the Elevated Quantum Consortium. Personally, I have an AMO physics degree from Colorado State University, AMO being atomic, molecular, and optic. That's a geeky science term that relates to some of the work that we do here in quantum. But I spent 25 years in R&D-oriented business companies at various scales, and the last few years of my career was spent at the Boulder Chamber of Commerce, just a little up the road, to doing economic development and really focusing on quantum. And a natural trajectory for me was to then now move into the university as of the last year, the elevation of our stature and, of course, the pressure in this highly competitive marketplace globally, and I will also say nationally, creates an imperative for us to focus on workforce, focus on company creation, focus on leadership in research and development. And so it's been, I would say, an elevated initiative at CU Boulder to contribute to this ecosystem. So it's just a thrill to be here, and I look forward to the conversation and more so some of the questions that you might have about what is quantum.
Thank you. So you mentioned about relevance, and in the news, I don't know if anyone had heard that there was some news that the CEO of NVIDIA had indicated that quantum computing is 10 to 30 years out. And so what I want to ask this panel is, I think I kind of did an overview in terms of, what quantum is and what kind of technologies have come out and how it can relate to us. But what are we going to see in our life, or what are our kids or our grandkids going to see? What does this timeline look like, and how quantum's going to become part of everybody's everyday life?
Both looking at me, is that what? Well, we've just completed an initial workforce development roadmap for the state of Colorado and the Rocky Mountain region here. One of the skill domains, we've identified 4 skill domains. We have quantum experts. These are the PhD scientists that are working in the field. We have quantum proficient folks, which are people that are in engineering disciplines that are now applying themselves to quantum technologies. We have a skill domain associated with quantum conversant. Those are people that are bringing very specific skill sets, knowledges, and abilities to the quantum industry. But today we're talking about quantum aware, right? And what I like to say is, when was the first time you saw a laser, right? Think about that. In our lifetime, we all saw a laser for the first time. That's a quantum device, right? And think about from the time that you first saw it to what you feel the laser has done for society and for the community, right? It's a relatively short period of time. Think about the first time that you saw a digital camera, right? Think about the first time you owned a digital camera. And think about how digital cameras today are all in our pockets with multiple cameras on that device. Technology translation happens very, very quickly, right? Quantum devices, the laser, Nobel Prize winning science. The digital camera, Einstein's Nobel Prize, right? And so think about now that we have 4 Nobel Prizes and much, much more accolades associated with the technology that is at the core of quantum. And what we're really looking for now are the use cases associated with moving those out into the market. So yes, NVIDIA, announced, quantum technology is 10 to 15, 20 years out. That might be true in the quantum computing space, but I will tell you right now, as Anju mentioned, the quantum sensing applications, that is to say applying quantum technologies to sensing our environment, whether it's gravitation, whether it's exhale from breath, whether it's looking at methane leaks, that stuff is here today, right? And so that's going to start to impact our lives. And so when you say, I was at an Arvada Chamber event and I first heard about quantum, and maybe this is the first time you become aware of the impacts of quantum, it's going to start to accelerate. It's going to accelerate first in the sensing space, and this is my personal opinion, but I think it's based on fact, where we're going to apply these wonderful sensing modalities to position, navigation, timing, where we're going to see that in the biological sensing space, where we're going to see it in certain seismic and gravitational applications. That's where it's going to first come to roost, right? And in parallel to that, the quantum computing expertise is going to rapidly increase from day to day to day to day in terms of our capability in our engineering applications to being able to solve either large problems faster or to solve problems that we can't even imagine that are solvable today. And so as this progression from day one here today, if you will, as you're becoming more and more quantum aware, quantum is here today. It's contributing to our local and our global economy, and it's going to continue to amplify just as the laser got on board, and now we see it at the supermarkets, just as the digital camera first got on board and was giving us views of the heavens and now is in each of our pockets. That's the kind of expectation that we have for the quantum industry in the next 10 years. So as I agree and disagree with NVIDIA, that's a matter of, I would say, hotly debated topic in the quantum computing industry in specifics. But overall, quantum technology coming into our daily lives is really searching for applications. And that's why what we're doing here in Arvada, in Jefferson County, in Boulder County, in Larimer County, in El Paso County, and in Colorado and the Rocky Mountain region is so important to elevate and to accelerate our companies and our expertise here to get those products into the market. So hopefully that answers the question.
I would just add that, as Scott said, there's so many, we're in early stages of development. We've made a lot of progress in the last 10 years in getting towards a real quantum computer. It may be still a while away, but once we get there, the potential that we feel is possible is going to be enormous. It meaningfully changes our lives as we know it right now. Just to draw some parallelism, it's like being in the 1970s and trying to predict what could a computer do for us. I'm sure most of us would not have predicted we would be walking around with the cell phones in 50 years. So very early, but this technology has potential to revolutionize our lives. There are early bits of this technology that is available. It's like having early calculators or like small computers that you could do calculations, which you could also do with pen and paper at that stage. But it was starting to become more and more powerful and meaningful. And I think that's the stage we are in quantum, where it's early applications. We are looking for what a good market fit is for where the technology is right now. And then we're preparing to scale it up. And once that scales, we are just so excited about the potential and skeptical sometimes, rightly so, and also excited to see how it all unfolds.
I'd like to talk about stuff that a little closer to home. So I have a question, and maybe Jesse can field this first. What specific industries in Jefferson County could benefit most from quantum applications?
Absolutely. I'm going to add one thing on the last question that I do want to talk a little bit about that. I think also as we talk about our startup community, the kinds of technologies that are supporting what is going to be the future of a quantum computer are happening today. When we talked about those refrigerators, Maybell Quantum is here in Colorado. Little bit different looking system, but it's here. That's building, that's real, that has applications. When we talk about these photon integrated circuits, Octave Photonics, here in Colorado, that has applications far beyond some of the technologies we've talked about today. So the kinds of technology that comes as we're working towards this goal is real. So then to the second point here around different industries, I think the first piece, again, some of these technologies that we've mentioned, they have applications. They have applications in healthcare. They have applications in space and aerospace and a number of the different defense applications that are here in our backyard. Particularly on the workforce piece, when we talk about some of the skill sets we're building, we're talking about microfabrication. We're talking about laser technicians. We're talking about these different types of training paths. They're preparing a workforce for the future of quantum, but they're also preparing people for jobs in other industries today. So I do look at the efforts we have when we start looking at the quantum and quantum adjacent new job creation that we're talking about with 10,000 jobs. That doesn't begin to account for all of the different types of individuals we're training for jobs here.
Anyone like to add to that? Or?
Yeah, so maybe just like there are quantum technologies which help monitor methanes, which help monitor emissions in different industries. I think that's a technology that would be very relevant for the industrial ecosystem here. There's a huge farming community. A lot of the work we are doing at Mesa Quantum with GPS resilience, I think it's going to be applicable for that. All sorts of manufacturing. As we start developing quantum, there are a lot of component technologies that we would want to interface with local industries on. So I think there'd be many, many areas of collaboration as we progress.
So similar to that note is how will the Quantum Tech Hub collaborate with local businesses and educational institutions?
can start. So I'll make a little bit of a plug. So one of the ways that Elevate Quantum is really trying to make sure that we have close ties with industry, with science, with workforce, we have a number of these different advisory boards and collaboratives that we've stood up. One of those in particular, our Elevate Quantum Workforce Collaborative. We meet quarterly, and we're talking about all of the amazing work that is happening and how we start to accelerate. We're not the first people who have come up with what are these different career pathways. Our partners at Front Range Community College already have amazing optics programs that we can start to accelerate. We're here to help accelerate, find placement, sustainable career pathways, and that's a big piece of this. Here with Red Rocks Community College, they have incredible programs and are continuing to build those with fabrication and others. These are incredible partners. We want to be there to help accelerate. We have our own, through the EDA, funded activities that we're working on to develop some really quantum-specific materials, but that is one of the ways that we stay really close. In that workforce collaborative, it's not just our community college and academic partners. We have private sector partners that are working and leading a lot of this, of thinking about on-the-job training applications. We have funders that are looking for ways that we can really start to put money to work to see these outcomes, very outcome-based workforce investment happening in the area. So again, making a little bit of a plug, but if it's something you're interested in, we've got a large community of over 120 organizations.
And something that may be of interest is a program we have at CU, and Scott probably can talk a bit more about it, but CU runs a QForge program, which allows students to partner with industries and get trained even as they're completing their undergrad or master's and be industry ready as they graduate and creating a workforce for quantum. So I think that would be a great opportunity for like local colleges here to plug into a lot more, develop programs like this, and collaborate with Elevate in the future.
And what type of job opportunities will be created through the Quantum Tech Hub, including the Quantum Incubator, and what skills will be in demand?
Yeah, I could answer that. So we've mentioned the Quantum Incubator. I think you saw in Anju's presentation, smack dab in the middle, the middle hexagon is this concept that we came up with about a year ago to expressly make the proposal to the EDA substantially more competitive, in my opinion, and that was the connection of the three universities here in the Front Range in the context of creating a space that what we call at the university is a technology translational space, which is a fancy way of saying you have something that somebody has discovered, it's sitting on a lab bench, and it has potential economic opportunity or productization opportunity. How do you get it from that lab out into the marketplace? You can't just throw it to a large company. You have to sort of incubate that and design that for productization and test throughout the evolution of a product. And so that was one of the key missing elements. Quantum is an expensive adventure. It requires, in some cases, these dilution refrigerators that we've been talking about, they're $1 million plus. And so, for startups, for companies to actually get out of the laboratory and get into an environment where they can not spend a lot of money but get access to state-of-the-art instrumentation for that technology to translate out into the marketplace is exactly the focus of the Quantum Incubator. And it's a collaboration between all three of the technology translation groups within the university systems of Mines, CSU, and CU Boulder. And so that is designed to sort of feed the other assets that we're bringing online here in Arvada, such that once the products mature, then they can come into as the aspiration was presented earlier, into an industry park or in something that is becoming a little bit more product-oriented that has real economic gain. But that first stage is where we put that through. In terms of job creation, it's projected that let's say as I mentioned, these skill domains earlier, the quantum conversants and the quantum aware levels of the workforce is really where Elevate Quantum and the Workforce Initiative is really focused on, making people more aware and understanding this foundational talent that has to be created to support what would be a large and quickly growing quantum industry. But at least we forget that there's still going to be demands for engineers, scientists, marketing professionals, finance professionals that will either be moving directly in from their education paths into quantum, or will be translating over from other industries into the quantum fields. And so at the university, we feel that this has to be addressed as a holistic equation. Yes, we need to be graduating PhD scientists that create the thought leadership in the quantum industry, but we have to be graduating engineers. We have to be educating and generating graduates that are bringing their specific application discipline-oriented educations to the quantum industry across all of the disciplines that we graduate. And then alignment amongst all of our technical institutes, our two-year colleges, and other non-traditional resources to really start to introduce quantum principles such that they can trajectory once the market is big. I will say one thing, that the generation that is going to be impacted the most by quantum technologies is in the K-12 track right now. And so if we're not looking at educating teachers and educating in a very simplistic way our elementary school kids right now, and I'm not telling them to teach quantum, I'm saying teach principles like probability. Let's talk about what that spark in that 5th grade classroom is, which is typically where we see divergence from STEM fields, and specifically focused on gender differences. We need to be doing a better job in STEM education in the K-12 generally, right? That's going to help the quantum industry, but it's also going to help aerospace and biosciences and IT and national security, all of which are industries that are very, very relevant and priorities here in the state of Colorado and certainly here in Jefferson County. So for me, that's the focus, that we really need to start this pipeline of education such that as students graduate either from high school or from the 2-year community college systems or the 4-year tracks or get their PhDs, they're all becoming quantum aware along the way.
I'd love to put some numbers behind that as well, as we were in the application phase, really looking at what does our economy, our quantum economy look like today. When we started trying to put numbers to this, Anju mentioned, we are larger than a lot of these ecosystems by 100x. 3,000 jobs are estimated to be in Colorado today, and myth busting a little bit of that, 50% of those are not going to require these advanced degrees when we talk about PhDs. A lot of those, we have the opportunity to build the skill sets, like Scott said, from K-12 up. But these are skill sets, precision soldering, I can talk, electronics assembly, microfabrication, optics and laser experience, algorithm developers. These are things that exist. And when we look at percentages and we start breaking them down, these quantum adjacent, these people that are able to be quantum conversant, we need customer success reps. We need people that are going to be able to work in sales and marketing and be able to support operations. These are things, again, that we can train, we can build. It's not just the PhDs. We need to make sure that we are getting the next generation of PhDs in K through 12, but we also need to be thinking about this larger stackable credentialing strategy.
Trade is a huge area here, welding, manufacturing. That's a big area that now kids who are taking the non-traditional routes and they're going into the trades, they can get into quantum as well. What is the timeline that we can expect for the implementation of the Quantum Tech Hub?
I can go first and talk about the Arvada facility. So right now Anju showed the 70 acres that has been purchased. We've got in there a number of existing facilities and buildings. So right now we're in a little bit of renovation mode. We've got an administrative building that we are looking to be able to start moving in ourselves, but also being able to rent out office space within the next 6 months. When we talk about the lab, the laboratory is shared access facility, looking towards last quarter of this year, maybe early 2026, to have that up and running and available. Then our fabrication, the photon integrated circuits, we start to look a little bit further into 2026, but starting to roll out that low volume manufacturing here, again, within that 2026 range.
How will the hub contribute to advancing quantum research and development?
I'll take that one real quick, and you're a product of exactly what I'm going to say, so maybe you can come back. I think really a lot of it has already been advanced. I mean, the consortium that's been created and the collaboration and the connectivity over the last year in this effort to, let's say, trumpet where we've been, but more so the opportunity that we have here in the state of Colorado, I think has gone a long way to really accelerate that. I guess you're looking at 4 people that are 4 new hires in the quantum industry in the last year or so, right? I'm just going to say that, albeit one as a CEO, but that's fair to say. And so, all of us are sort of coming out of the woodwork and really meeting people for the first time. That's why it's such a joy to come here today to really communicate the greatness of what's going on here in the state, because it has come together so quickly. You don't see an economic development and industry being created as quickly as the quantum industry has been essentially created, mobilized, and then marketed nationally and internationally, as we've seen in the past year. It's really fantastic. So, kind of bridging the last 2 questions, the time frame, it's here now, right? I mean, we just on Wednesday night, I think all 3 of us were at the ribbon cutting where the governor cut the ribbon on the new quantum incubator, right? And so all of this is being coordinated in a very timely manner to ensure these assets are coming online in an appropriate time frame to complement each other. And the governor has said, you shall do this. So we are doing that. Yeah, I think what really the opportunity is really an opportunity of a lifetime, because as all of us always look at career opportunities and transitions, moving into the field depending on what your discipline is. I never thought my economic development background would be relevant to the quantum industry, right? But now it's uniquely relevant to the quantum industry. And so, as you kind of look at and then talk to people, look at your own careers and talk to people about their careers, this idea of communicating the importance and the status of where we are with this initiative, I think will pique people's attention. Will also maybe rise their curiosity and say, I want to be on board with something that is not about the past, but something that is expressly going to impact the future. And so, yes, we work for a paycheck, but we also work for the greater good and what stimulates our own career paths and our own interests. The quantum industry has an opportunity for all of us to move into that. And Elevate Quantum and the general community is sitting at the core of being able to provide those resources for anyone moving in and around the industry.
And just to add to what Scott said, I had 2 points to make here. First is that quantum is expensive. So it is not an industry that you can start from your garage. You need equipment, you need access to clean room, you need access to fabs. So in terms of R&D impact, I think it's going to be huge, because we've not had a place where quantum companies could be incubated. It's just been so expensive. So to start a company, you had to have a certain background. You had to be able to raise a lot of capital to even before you get started. And I think this facility would change that. And another thing I would note is last month, I was in South Korea accompanying a state delegation from Colorado. And what was very exciting to see is just because we are building this facility here and that level of R&D capabilities are not easy to access, companies in South Korea were so interested in having R&D presence. Like, even if it's not completely moving the headquarters, but for characterization, for access to certain machineries, which may cost millions of dollars and they don't have access there. And I'm sure it's not just South Korea, it's companies across the world who are now wanting to establish a presence here to be able to get access to that ecosystem. So overall, I think, yeah, in terms of R&D and economic impact in quantum, it's going to be huge.
That's a really good point. Is you fast forward in a few years to 10 years, and the international presence that we will have in this region is going to be different. It's going to be great. Is that we are bringing international attention to this area, and they do recognize that this is where they want to be part of the quantum technology and quantum industry. So I have less than a minute for each of you, and I'm going to go off script. All right, so Scott will go first because I like to put him on the spot. You have a captured audience here. These are public sector, private sector in this region. What would you want to say to them? Take this opportunity to have a minute, and what would you like to say to them with regards to what we're doing here?
I'll just say a couple of words. I mean, opportunity, engagement, and sense of urgency, right? I think that's where we're at. Quantum's a race. We are racing. We mentioned a little bit about our competition within Chicago, but that's not the race that we're really worried about. The race we're worried about is national security, national prominence in the world in quantum science. And so at any point in time where you read an article or you see something, just educate yourself about the bigger picture that's going on, right? We tend to get mired in, I want this facility or this company in my municipality or my state or my region or what have you, and the opportunities associated with that. And that's fair, and I know this group focuses very much on that. But that doesn't happen without a broad ecosystem. And so we have state elected officials here, county commissioners, other leaders that have a voice at the state legislature, have a voice at the governor's mansion, have a voice within our institutions, have a voice at our alma maters. And so participate in understanding and asking the question, what can I do for the quantum industry? That's going to be imperative. So I can't give you a very specific example of what I would ask you to do, but this idea of engagement has to be at the core. That's what we're trying to build at the Elevate Quantum Consortium. That's what we have been building over the half century that we've been engaged with the quantum industry. But now we're scaling up, and that's going to involve all of us to become a little bit more aware of how we can input to this incredible phenomena where we usher in the next 100 years of the quantum age.
Maybe one takeaway from my side would be just knowing that it is not just for PhDs in quantum, it is for everyone to be involved. So just being educated and knowing that there is a place for everybody to plug in at different levels, be it legislature, be it schools, be it local vending shops, welding shops. So just knowing that and keeping track of the developments that's happening in the ecosystem, because it sounds very difficult and out of reach, but trust me, once you've been through a few panels like this or just read up a little bit, you'll feel a lot more conversant about quantum.
Absolutely. Well, I'll make the high-level plug. So when it is the year of quantum, there are lots of events and opportunities to come and learn more. On our website, we're building out a more comprehensive calendar. Would recommend folks go and look there if they are interested in continuing to engage. I think the other piece, I've made this plug for the Workforce Collaborative, but we have tactical programs that we're trying to roll out. OEDIT has sponsored a large K-12 strategy. We need employers, educators, funders to help us make that a reality. We also are running other programs with some of our leaders. I talked about some of these on-the-job training opportunities that are getting led by Lockheed Martin and IBM and some of our other partners. There are opportunities to take that to other employers. We also have other programs, as Scott mentioned, teacher externships, and really starting to think the only way we're going to bring this into the classroom starts with teachers. There are opportunities right now. We have active meetings and strategy sessions and project management going on there. If you are interested, again, would love to join that collaborative, and we can put you to work.
I want to thank you all for your time, your insights, and advice and input. And I want to just give everyone a round of applause, and then I'll hand it over to Cami.
Incredible job, all of you. Thank you. Raise your hand if you feel like you could talk about quantum at a dinner party now. I feel better.
Oh, my gosh.
Yes,
Huge
good job.
victory.
That's a win. That's awesome. Thank you for the practical examples and talking about the impact on our community. I'm even more excited now about the opportunities and partnerships that exist, and I'm thrilled to work with all of you and all of you as we continue this journey together. As we close out today, I want to thank our sponsors one more time, especially Red Silo and La Patisserie Francaise. Do not leave without your cookies. You will be very sad. So please make sure we get this to you. I also want to provide you a couple chamber updates as we're closing out today. It is our 100-year celebration, and with that, we have a lot of exciting events and programs that we're doing right now, starting with our annual dinner coming up here on February 28th. It's going to be a celebration of our past and our future, so we hope you can join us for that event. We are also doing a big initiative right now to grow our community. I know a number of you are first-timers at this event. We haven't seen you at our events before. If you're interested in being more involved with this chamber, with your community, what makes the Arvada Chamber so powerful in our mind is the fact that it's a lot of people, a lot of businesses and community leaders coming together to work toward a common goal. And when we do that, we're a lot more powerful. So if you want to be part of the community in a bigger way, we'd invite you to join in the next, Paul can tell me how many days are left. We're doing 100 members in 100 days. And so we are well on our way to that, but would invite you to join us as a member of the chamber as part of that 100 members in 100 days initiative. We also next week are hosting an employment law update. There have been some changes at the state level that we're bringing in an employment law attorney in partnership with Arvada Economic Development Association to help you learn a little bit more about what you need to be implementing for your business. We have limited seats left, but if you're interested, please let a member of our team know on your way out, and we're happy to get you taken care of. And then lastly, on your way out, there are these little cards that say join our networks. For those of you especially that are not currently engaged with us but found some value in today's event, we would invite you to fill this card out for us and tell us what you're interested in. We've gotten better about segmentation in our communication, so we can target for you if you're interested in advocacy, housing, childcare, talent, inclusion and belonging work, entrepreneurship, just making sure we're keeping you informed of the various events like today and other things that are happening across our community. With that, a big thank you again to our panel. We appreciate you all. We will send some follow-up materials out via email, and we hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you again.